Ethan Cole never believed in fate. He believed in machines, in numbers, in the cold comfort of logic. But fate came for him one quiet morning, wrapped in the sound of government drones humming outside his small apartment window on Colony 12. He opened the door and saw 3 soldiers in silver armor standing there. One of them handed him a sealed letter with the Earth Federation's mark, an insignia that made everyone's heart stop for a second. "Ethan Cole," the soldier said. "You have been chosen by the Council." "Prepare yourself," Ethan frowned. "Chosen for what?" The soldier didn't answer. "You will be briefed at the transport center. Departure is in 3 hours." When the soldiers left, Ethan stared at the letter. His hands shook as he broke the seal. The words inside felt like fire. "By order of the Human-Vraxian Peace Treaty, you are selected to represent the human race in an interspecies union with the Vraxian Empire. Your presence is required immediately." Ethan's mind went blank. He knew about the treaty. Everyone did. It had ended the 20-year war between humans and the Vraxians, a war that cost billions of lives. But the interspecies union program was something only whispered about. People said the aliens demanded it as a price for peace. He dropped into his chair, heart pounding. A marriage? With an alien? The word sounded unreal. He wasn't a soldier or a politician. He was an engineer, just a man who fixed power grids and drank cheap coffee. Why him? 3 hours later, he stood in the glowing launch terminal, surrounded by guards and diplomats. Every camera in the colony pointed at him. He could hear the whispers. "He's the one they picked. Poor guy. They say she's older than his mother. Lady Zira." "The Silver Widow." Ethan turned sharply. "What did you say?" The man beside him lowered his voice. "She's your bride. Lady Zira of the Vraxian High Council. They say she killed her first husband." Ethan's stomach twisted. Moments later, a massive alien ship descended through the red sky, its hull glowing like liquid metal. The air shook as it landed. From the center ramp, tall Vraxian soldiers stepped out, creatures with silver-blue skin, long limbs, and glowing eyes. Their movements were slow and graceful, like underwater dancers. Ethan was pushed forward. The human ambassador whispered, "Do your duty, Mr. Cole. Earth depends on you." He wanted to run. Every instinct screamed no. But behind him, soldiers blocked the way. As he stepped into the ship, he felt a strange pulse under his feet, like the metal itself was alive. The doors closed behind him with a hiss. The human world vanished. Inside, the corridors shimmered with light that changed color as he walked. The air smelled faintly of flowers and iron. Vraxian servants bowed as he passed, whispering in a language that sounded like music. Finally, he entered a wide chamber with a glowing circle in the center. There, standing tall and silent, was Lady Zira. She was unlike anything he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered like molten silver, her hair floated slightly as if in water, and her eyes, deep blue and bright, seemed to look through him, into his soul. When she spoke, her voice was calm but powerful. "You are Ethan Cole, human representative," he nodded slowly. "I guess that's me." Zira studied him for a long time. "You are younger than I expected." He tried to speak, but his throat felt dry. "I didn't expect this either." Her expression softened just a little. "Neither did I." The ceremony began almost immediately. A circle of light formed around them. Strange symbols floated in the air, glowing softly as Zira raised her hand. Ethan followed her lead. The air around them hummed with energy. The alien priest's voice echoed through the chamber. "By the law of unity between our worlds, this bond shall stand until death or peace itself ends." As their hands touched, Ethan felt a shock of warmth travel up his arm. His vision blurred for a moment. He saw flashes, images of alien stars, ancient wars, and something else, a shadow watching from beyond the chamber walls. When the ceremony ended, Zira looked at him again, her eyes unreadable. "From now on, you will stay in the West Wing. Do not wander at night. Do not open any sealed doors." Ethan frowned. "Why?" "Because," she said softly, "some things in this house are older than peace." That night, as thunder rolled outside the alien palace, Ethan lay awake in his new quarters. The walls glowed faintly with silver veins of light pulsing like a heartbeat. Then he heard it, a scream. Distant, sharp, and human, he sat up, heart racing. The sound came again from somewhere deep within the West Wing. the part he was told never to enter. Ethan stared at the sealed door at the end of the hallway, the glow of the palace flickering around him, and for the first time, he wondered if peace had really come to either world, or if he had just walked into a cage made of stars. Ethan did not sleep that night. The scream he had heard still echoed in his head. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw flashes of blue light and the cold face of Lady Jira, his new alien wife. When morning came, the walls of the palace glowed with soft silver light. He looked out the tall window. Beyond the glass was not a sky, but a sea of stars. The palace floated high above the planet's surface, suspended like a jewel in the dark. He walked into the hall quietly, unsure where to go. Strange machines floated through the air, cleaning the floors with beams of light. The palace seemed alive. The walls moved slightly, breathing in rhythm like a sleeping creature. "Good morning, human." Ethan turned sharply. Lady Jira stood at the end of the corridor, wearing a long white robe that shimmered like liquid. She looked calm, but her eyes were sharp, too sharp. "Good morning," he said, trying to sound polite. "I didn't sleep much." "I am not surprised," she replied. "The palace has its own sounds. It speaks to those who are not used to it." He wanted to ask about the scream, but her expression warned him not to. They walked together through long crystal corridors. Jira spoke little, but she watched him carefully, as if studying every move. When they reached the dining hall, he saw a table filled with food. Some of it looked human, but most of it shimmered in colors he had never seen before. "Please eat," she said. "Your body must adjust to our world." Ethan picked up something that looked like fruit but changed color when he touched it. It tasted like honey and metal at once. He pretended to like it. After a long silence, he finally spoke. "Why me out of billions of humans? Why was I chosen?" Jira's silver eyes flickered. "Because you were compatible." "Compatible?" he repeated. "With what?" "With me," she said simply. He didn't know how to answer. The way she said it sounded both cold and personal. Then her tone changed, softer, almost sad. "You must understand, Ethan. Our worlds are bound by law, not by love. You were chosen by your leaders, as I was chosen by mine. We are prisoners of peace." Ethan stared at her. "So you didn't want this either?" "No," she said quietly. "But sometimes peace demands things we cannot refuse." She stood and walked to a large window. Her reflection shimmered in the glass. "There are rooms in this palace you must never enter," she said. "The West Wing, especially. It holds memories better left buried." He remembered the scream and felt a chill. "And if I do?" Her eyes met his. "Then you will not live long enough to regret it." The rest of the day passed slowly. Ethan was shown around by silent Vraxian servants who bowed but never spoke. Everywhere he went, the palace seemed to watch him. The walls pulsed softly when he walked past, as if sensing his presence. At dusk, he found a balcony overlooking the alien world below. The view was breathtaking. Vast oceans of glowing mist, mountains floating in the air, lightning storms dancing in silence. For a moment, he forgot his fear. Then he heard footsteps behind him. "Jira again." "You are far from your room," she said. "I just needed air," he replied. "This place feels alive." She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. "It is alive. The palace was grown, not built. It shares my energy. When you walk through it, it listens. That's comforting," he said dryly. She smiled faintly, the first real emotion he had seen from her. "You are brave, Ethan Cole, or foolish. Perhaps both." A soft wind moved her hair, and for the first time she looked almost human. There was something behind her coldness, a loneliness she tried to hide. "Jira," he said quietly. "Last night I heard something, a scream. It sounded human." Her expression turned to stone. "You heard nothing." "But I said you heard nothing." Her voice was sharp now, filled with warning. "Do not chase the voices in this house. Some belong to the living, some do not." With that, she turned and walked away, her robe glowing faintly in the starlight. Ethan stood alone on the balcony, staring into the endless darkness. He told himself he would stay out of trouble. He would follow her rules. But deep inside, curiosity was already burning. Who or what had screamed that night? And why did Jira's eyes for just a moment look like she was hiding fear? As he turned to leave, he saw something move in the reflection of the glass just behind his shoulder. A shadow, tall and thin with glowing blue eyes. He spun around. Nothing, only silence. Yet he could swear he heard a whisper, soft, cold and close. "Don't trust her, human." And somewhere deep in the palace, a door creaked open, slowly as if inviting him to the truth. Ethan woke to the sound of whispers. Not human whispers. Soft, strange voices like air moving through a flute. When he opened his eyes, the ceiling above him was glowing faintly blue, forming symbols that faded as soon as he blinked. He sat up, heart pounding. The room around him looked peaceful, yet he could feel something watching him, something invisible. That same night again, the scream echoed in his mind. He could no longer pretend it didn't happen. He had to know the truth. The palace corridors were quiet. The silver walls pulsed slowly, like veins under skin. Each time he took a step, the floor responded with a soft hum, as if the palace recognized him. He passed the door Jira told him never to open. The West Wing. It looked different from the rest, dark, cold, and covered with strange marks. A soft breeze blew from beneath it, carrying a faint smell of burnt metal. His hand moved toward the door, but before he could touch it, a voice spoke from behind. "You should not be here." Ethan turned fast. Lady Jira stood at the end of the hallway, her silver robe glowing faintly in the dark. "I was just walking," Ethan said quickly. She looked at him with those bright blue eyes that seemed to see through lies. The West Wing remembers things better forgotten. Ethan swallowed hard. "What's behind it?" She stepped closer, and for a moment her face softened. "Death," she said simply. Then she turned away. "Come, there is something you must see." They walked through the palace until they reached a massive chamber filled with floating light orbs. The air shimmered like water. In the center stood a tall machine made of silver roots and crystal plates. Jira touched the surface, and the lights formed images, humans and Vraxians standing together, smiling. "This was before the war," she said, "when our worlds first met. We believed peace was easy." Ethan watched the images fade into scenes of destruction. Cities burning, ships crashing, soldiers fighting under alien skies. "What happened?" he asked softly. "Fear," she said. "Your kind feared what they could not control." "So did mine." Her voice grew quiet. "The West Wing holds the result of that fear. Experiments." "Failures," Ethan frowned. "Experiments?" Jira turned away. "You do not want to know." He did, but he said nothing. There was something about her tone, something tired, like a person who had seen too much pain. "Why do you stay here?" he asked instead. "You could live anywhere. You're powerful." She looked at him for a long time before answering. "Power does not free us, Ethan. It binds us tighter." Later that evening, Ethan wandered alone again. The servants avoided him now. They whispered as he passed, their glowing eyes darting away. He could feel their fear, not of him, but of what he might discover. He reached the garden, a strange place filled with plants that glowed in the dark, their petals opening like mouths. In the center was a small pond of liquid silver. He leaned closer. The reflection staring back wasn't his own. It had black eyes and sharp teeth. He jumped back in shock. When he looked again, only his tired human face remained. Behind him, something moved. A shadow slipped between the trees. Ethan turned, but it vanished into the mist. He ran back inside, breath heavy. At the entrance to his chamber, he saw something on the wall. 3 marks scratched into the silver metal, glowing faintly red. They looked like claw marks. Ethan's heart raced. He went to Jira's quarters immediately. The doors opened before he could knock. She stood by the window, staring into space. "There's something in this palace," Ethan said. "Something dangerous." "I know," she said quietly. "You know?" He shouted. "Then why are we still here?" Jira turned to him, her voice trembling. "Because if we leave, it will follow us. It's bound to me, to this place. That's why I told you not to open the door." Her calm face cracked for the first time. Fear showed in her eyes. "What is it?" Ethan asked softly. Jira's voice dropped to a whisper. "It's the past. The remains of the first human who came here. The one before you." Ethan froze. "There was another?" She nodded slowly. He disobeyed. He entered the West Wing, and the palace kept him. That night, Ethan lay awake again. The palace lights dimmed and shadows danced across the walls. He couldn't shake her words. The palace kept him. A cold wind slipped under the door, carrying faint whispers in a voice that wasn't his. "Help me." Ethan sat up, eyes wide. The voice came from the West Wing. Against his better judgment, he stood. The corridor stretched before him, silent and waiting. He took one slow step toward the forbidden door, and as he did, the lights of the palace dimmed one by one until only darkness remained. The palace was silent, but Ethan could feel something breathing in the dark. He stood in the corridor outside the west wing door, heart pounding so loudly it echoed in his ears. The metal around him shimmered faintly, almost as if it could sense his thoughts. He reached out and touched the handle. It was ice cold. Then a soft voice spoke behind him. "Ethan." He turned. Lady Zira stood there, her eyes glowing a deep blue. She wasn't angry, she looked tired, sad, and frightened. "I told you not to come here," she whispered. "You don't understand what this place holds." "I heard him," Ethan said. "The other human. You said the palace kept him. What did you mean?" Zira hesitated, then sighed. "You want the truth?" He nodded. "Then come with me." She led him through narrow corridors that twisted like veins inside the living palace. The air grew warmer, filled with a faint humming sound like thousands of distant heartbeats. They reached a round chamber Ethan had never seen before. Its walls pulsed slowly, glowing from within. Zira placed her hand on the wall. A circle of light appeared and part of the wall melted away, opening a hidden passage. Inside, rows of glass tanks stretched into the darkness. Floating inside each tank was something. Half human, half alien. Their skin shimmered, their faces twisted as if trapped between two worlds. Ethan stepped back, horrified. "What is this?" Zira's voice was low. "These are the failed unions. The council wanted to create a being stronger than both our races. A child of peace, they called it. But peace cannot be made in a laboratory." Ethan's throat tightened. "The other human, he was part of this?" "Yes," she said softly. "He was the first chosen. My first husband." Ethan's eyes widened. "Then you killed him?" Zira turned sharply. "No, the council did. When the experiment failed, they blamed me for his death. I tried to save him, but the palace's systems bound his essence to the West Wing. His mind never left." Ethan stared at the tanks again, feeling sick. "So the scream I heard was him," she said quietly. "He still calls out. The palace feeds on memory and energy. It keeps what it cannot understand." He felt a chill crawl up his spine. "Why didn't you destroy it?" Zira shook her head. "Because the council forbade it. They wanted to try again. And now, Ethan, you are their second attempt." He froze. "What?" "You were not chosen for who you are," she said. "You were chosen for what your body can endure. Your genes, your blood type, your neural pattern. They said you were perfect for the next trial." Ethan backed away. "You mean they want to turn me into one of those things?" Zira looked away, shame in her voice. "They wanted to use both of us. Our union, our energy would create something new, a bridge between worlds. I agreed only to protect you, to buy time." Ethan's mind raced. "You lied to them?" "I delayed them," she corrected. "But they are growing impatient. The council watches us from orbit. If they suspect I've told you, they will come for us both." He stepped closer, searching her face. "Why are you telling me now?" "Because you deserve to know," she said. "And because I cannot keep lying, to them or to you." There was silence for a moment. The glowing tanks around them flickered like candles. Ethan whispered, "Do you feel anything for me, Zira? Or is all of this just a mission to you?" Her expression softened. "When we met, I saw you as a tool, a piece in a game I was forced to play. But now," she paused, "now, I see a man who reminds me what it means to choose." He looked into her glowing eyes. For the first time, he saw warmth there, not human, but real. Zira stepped closer, her voice trembling. "If we stay, they will turn you into what you saw. If we run, they will hunt us across the stars. There is no safe path." Ethan clenched his fists. "Then we fight." Zira smiled faintly. "You speak like a soldier." "I'm not," he said. "But I'm not letting them take me, or you." As they left the hidden chamber, the palace lights flickered violently. The walls trembled as if awakening from a long sleep. Zira turned to him sharply. "They know," she whispered. The council felt the breach. "They're coming." Ethan looked back down the corridor. The glowing tanks began to crack one by one, as if something inside them had heard her words. "Zira," he said, "what's happening?" She reached for his hand. "The truth has a price, Ethan, and now we must pay it." The sound of alarms filled the palace, and the sky outside flashed red. The experiments were waking up. The alarm bells rang through the palace like a living heartbeat gone mad. The walls flashed red and the air vibrated with a deep humming sound that made Ethan's skin crawl. The peaceful glow of the Vraxian halls was gone. Now everything looked angry, alive, and ready to attack. Jira grabbed Ethan's wrist and pulled him down the corridor. "They've activated the Sentinels," she said, her voice tense. "We have minutes before the guards reach us." "Sentinels?" Ethan asked, running beside her. "Machines built from living metal. They protect the Council's secrets." The floor trembled beneath them. Somewhere behind, a deep metallic growl echoed through the hall. Ethan glanced back and saw the wall splitting apart, forming shapes: arms, claws, eyes. The palace itself was turning into a creature. Jira extended her hand and blue energy burst from her palm, freezing the living metal in place. "Go!" she shouted. They reached a chamber filled with crystal panels and glowing circles. Jira placed her hand on one of the circles and a large holographic map appeared. Ethan recognized the structure. It was the palace itself. Thousands of red dots moved toward their position. "They're sealing us in," she said. "We have one path left, to the lower vaults." "The place with those experiments?" Ethan asked. "Yes," she said grimly. "The only path they won't expect us to take." They ran through corridors that twisted like veins, the walls whispering in a strange alien language. Ethan could feel the palace watching them, angry that its secrets were being broken. They finally reached a dark staircase spiraling down into the depths. A cold wind rose from below, carrying a smell like rust and burned stone. "Jira," Ethan said, breathing hard. "Why don't we just escape? You can teleport, can't you? Use your powers." She shook her head. "The Council blocked all long-range transport. They're watching every exit. The only safe place now is down there." They descended into the vault. The deeper they went, the darker it became until even the walls stopped glowing. Jira touched her necklace and a faint blue light surrounded them. The vault opened into a massive chamber. Dozens of tubes and machines lined the walls, humming softly. But these weren't experiments, they were records. Each tube contained a small floating crystal, glowing faintly with blue light. "What is this?" Ethan asked. Jira stepped closer to one of the crystals. "Memories," she said. "Every experiment, every subject, every death. Recorded and stored." Ethan touched one. The crystal flared, and suddenly he saw images in his mind. Humans screaming, Vraxian scientists arguing, Jira standing over a dying man. He stumbled back, gasping. "They tortured people." "Yes," she whispered. "In the name of peace." Before Ethan could reply, a voice echoed through the chamber, cold, mechanical, and powerful. "Unauthorized presence detected. Termination protocol engaged." From the shadows, 3 tall figures stepped forward, half machine, half living metal, with glowing eyes and sharp limbs. Jira raised her hands, blue fire forming between her palms. "Ethan, get behind me." He obeyed, ducking as one of the sentinels fired a beam that sliced through a row of crystals, shattering memories into dust. Jira fired back, her energy blasts colliding with theirs in bursts of light. Sparks flew everywhere. The room shook. Ethan spotted a control panel near the wall. A thought flashed in his mind. If he could overload the chamber's energy grid, maybe it could disable the sentinels. He sprinted toward it, ducking under falling debris. "Jira, keep them busy." She gave a sharp nod, her power flaring brighter. Ethan reached the panel and began typing. The symbols were alien, but his engineer's brain recognized patterns. Energy routes, charge limits, safety locks. He hit the override sequence. A loud hum filled the air. The floor glowed red. "Ethan, what did you do?" Jira shouted. "Something dangerous." He yelled back. The sentinels turned toward him, their eyes blazing. "Jira, now!" he screamed. She threw her energy into the floor and the entire vault exploded with light. When Ethan opened his eyes, the chamber was a ruin. The walls were scorched, the machines melted. Smoke filled the air. 2 sentinels were down, twisted and broken. The third was crawling toward them, its voice glitching. "You cannot stop." "The Council." Jira stepped forward and crushed it with a single strike of blue flame. The creature melted into liquid metal. Ethan coughed, struggling to stand. We did it." Jira helped him up. "No," she said, looking around. "The Council knows where we are now, and they will send more." He looked at the shattered crystals on the floor, glowing weakly. All those people, all those memories, gone. Jira's face hardened. "Not all. I have copies hidden. You saved them?" "I had to," she said. "Someday the truth must be seen by both our worlds." Ethan nodded slowly. Then let's make sure we live long enough to show it. Before they could move, a strange rumble shook the entire palace. The ground cracked open, and from the dark pit below something began to rise, massive, glowing and alive. Shira's eyes widened. No, they've released it. Released what? Ethan asked. The first experiment, she whispered. The one that still remembers pain. The floor split open with a deep tearing sound like the palace itself was screaming. From the darkness below, something enormous began to rise. The air shimmered with heat and blue lightning. Ethan stumbled backward as smoke poured around him, filling his lungs with a metallic taste. Jira stood still, her glowing eyes fixed on the chasm. No, she whispered. They unleashed him. A shape emerged, tall, twisted, part metal, part flesh. It pulsed with faint blue light like it had veins made of fire. Its face was half human. The other half was covered in Vraxian armor that seemed to grow from its skin. Who is that? Ethan asked, voice trembling. Jira's expression was filled with sorrow. The first experiment. My first husband. The man they killed, and then brought back. The creature lifted its head. Its one human eye locked onto Zira. You left me, it growled in a broken, distorted voice. Jira took a step forward, her voice shaking. I tried to save you, Aaron. They wouldn't let me. Lies, the creature hissed. You stood there. You watched. Ethan felt a wave of pity and fear all at once. The creature's pain was alive, radiating like heat. The walls of the palace began to move again, responding to its rage. Jira, we need to get out of here, Ethan said. But Jira didn't move. If I run, he'll destroy everything. The palace, the humans, everyone. He doesn't know what he's become. Aaron, what was left of him, took a step forward. The ground cracked beneath his feet. You replaced me, he snarled, glaring at Ethan. You brought another human here. Another toy for your experiments. I'm not, Ethan began, but the creature's arm morphed into a blade and swung at him. Ethan dove aside, the blade missing him by inches. The impact sent a shockwave through the floor. Jira raised her hand, summoning a shield of blue energy around Ethan. Aaron, stop this, she shouted. You were never meant to wake. The creature roared. You mean I was never meant to live? The chamber erupted into chaos. Aaron's power tore through the walls, and pieces of living metal rained down from above. Jira fought fiercely, her energy clashing with his. The flashes of light blinded Ethan, and the sound of their power shook the ground. Ethan crawled behind a fallen pillar, trying to think. He noticed the control panels on the side wall, still active despite the damage. If he could reroute the palace's core energy, maybe he could weaken the creature. He ran for it, dodging shards of flying metal. His hands flew across the panel, scanning symbols that made no sense. He remembered what Zira once said. The palace shared her energy. If Aaron was connected to it now, then overloading the palace could hurt him. Jira saw what he was doing. Ethan, don't. If you overload it, the palace will collapse. Ethan's fingers froze. Then tell me how to stop him. She hesitated, pain flashing in her eyes. You can't. He's bound to me. My life keeps him alive. Ethan's heart sank. If he dies, you die. Jira nodded slowly. That is the price of what the council made us. Aaron roared again, swinging his arm like a blade of lightning. It struck Zira's shield, shattering it into glowing dust. She fell to one knee, breathing heavily. Ethan couldn't stand by. He grabbed a broken metal rod and charged at the creature, striking its back with all his strength. Sparks flew, but it barely noticed him. The creature turned and hit him with a wave of energy that sent him flying into the wall. Ethan! Jira screamed, rushing to him. He coughed, blood on his lips. You can't save me and him. Choose. Tears glimmered in her alien eyes. There has to be another way. Aaron raised his arm again, preparing to strike them both. But in that moment, something strange happened. The palace itself began to resist him. The floor pulsed red and metal spikes rose between Ethan and the creature. Jira gasped. The palace. It's listening to you, Ethan. Me? He said weakly. Yes. It's connected to both of us now. Use it. Command it. Ethan pressed his hand against the ground, focusing with all his strength. Stop him, he shouted. The palace responded instantly. The walls twisted, forming chains of glowing metal that wrapped around Aaron's body. He screamed, the sound echoing through the entire structure. Jira joined her energy with Ethan's, the two of them glowing like twin stars. The palace surged with power, shaking violently. Aaron's voice broke into static. Zira, I only wanted to be free. Jira's face softened. I know. I'm sorry. With one final burst of energy, the chains tightened and the creature dissolved into a wave of blue light. The floor closed over the pit, sealing him forever. The silence that followed was heavy. Jira fell to the ground, her light dimming. Ethan crawled to her side. Zira, hey, stay with me. She smiled weakly. You saved us. We saved each other, he said. But as he looked around, he realized the palace was falling apart. Cracks spread across the walls and the stars outside flickered. Jira's voice was faint now. The council won't stop, Ethan. They'll come again. You have to finish what we started. Ethan shook his head. Not without you. Her hand touched his cheek. Live. And remember. A bright flash filled the room and then everything went white. When Ethan opened his eyes, he was lying on the palace balcony, alone. The storm outside had ended. Jira was gone. He looked up at the sky where alien ships were approaching. But instead of fear, he felt calm, because deep within the palace walls he heard a soft whisper, her voice. I'm still here, Ethan. Finish it. The storm had passed, but silence was heavier than thunder. Ethan stood on the shattered balcony, his clothes torn, his hands still glowing faintly with blue light that wasn't his. The alien sky above Raxia burned with soft silver clouds. The palace beneath him, once alive, now seemed to breathe its last. Jira was gone. Her energy, her very essence, had vanished with the final burst that sealed the creature beneath the floor. Yet Ethan could still feel her, like a quiet heartbeat hidden deep inside the walls. He looked down at his palms. Faint marks glowed under his skin, pulsing in rhythm with the palace's fading light. Her energy was in him now. She didn't die. He whispered to himself. She became part of me. From the horizon, bright lights approached, dozens of Raxian ships descending from orbit. The council was coming. Ethan's chest tightened. He had destroyed their secret weapon, uncovered their crimes, and now their armies were on their way to silence him. But he wasn't the same frightened human who had stepped into this world weeks ago. He had Jira's strength now, and her promise. The ships landed outside the palace in perfect formation. Tall figures emerged, their silver armor reflecting the broken sunlight. At the front stood High Chancellor Valor, leader of the Vraxian Council. His face was cold, his voice sharp like glass. So, Valor said, stepping forward, our experiment survives, and the traitor perishes. Ethan's jaw tightened. She wasn't a traitor. She was the only one who still believed peace was possible. The Chancellor smirked. Peace is built on control, not compassion. You human have no place here. You are a mistake. Ethan took a slow breath. No, he said firmly. You're the mistake. You tried to force two worlds together with lies and pain. Jira saw it, and she died to stop it. Murmurs rippled through the soldiers behind Valor. Some looked uneasy, their eyes flickering. Ethan realized they hadn't been told everything. He raised his voice. You all think this palace was built for peace? Look around you. It was built on suffering. On humans and Vraxians both, turned into monsters for the council's greed. The Chancellor's expression darkened. Enough. He gestured to his guards. End him. The soldiers raised their weapons, but before they could fire, the ground trembled. The palace's walls lit up again, glowing with the same blue energy that once surrounded Jira. The voice that filled the air was soft, but powerful. He speaks the truth. Gasps spread through the crowd. The palace itself was speaking, with Jira's voice. Valor took a step back. Impossible. You took everything from me, the voice continued. But you cannot erase truth. The memories live here in the walls, in him. Ethan's marks glowed brighter. The energy spread through his body, linking him to the palace completely. He felt her inside his mind, guiding, steady, strong. Show them, Jira whispered in his thoughts. Ethan closed his eyes and raised his hands. Light poured from his palms, forming images in the sky. Memories from the vault. The soldiers saw humans and Vraxians being experimented on, crying out, suffering under the council's cruel science. The crowd fell silent. Some dropped their weapons. Others turned toward the Chancellor, their faces filled with shock and anger. Valor shouted, lies! Fabrications of a broken mind. But no one believed him. The truth was too clear, too real. Jira's voice echoed again, softer now. Ethan Cole carries my bond, my power. He is proof that our worlds can live together, Not through control, but through choice. The soldiers lowered their weapons. Even the air felt lighter. Ethan looked at the Chancellor one last time. "Your time is over." The palace rumbled, and a beam of blue light rose from its center, surrounding Valor and his guards. They vanished in an instant, erased by the very power they had tried to command. When the light faded, only silence remained. Ethan stood alone in the courtyard, staring at the rising sun. The silver clouds began to part, revealing the bright glow of a distant human ship arriving in orbit. Earth had come to see what had happened. He smiled faintly. "You'd like this view, Jira?" "I can see it," her voice whispered inside him. He closed his eyes. "What now?" "Now you lead. You finish what we began." He nodded slowly. "Then I'll rebuild this world. For both of us." Months later, peace talks began again. This time without lies or weapons. Humans and Vraxians stood together, rebuilding the ruins, learning from the past. The palace remained half alive, half stone, a monument to the truth. And at its heart, Ethan worked tirelessly, creating a new alliance named the Covenant of Two Suns, a bond that would unite both species under shared freedom. Every night, when the stars rose and the wind sang through the halls, Ethan would hear her voice, soft, warm, eternal. "You kept your promise, Ethan, and now I can rest." He looked up at the twin moons shining above the horizon and whispered, "Rest well, my alien queen." The wind carried his words into the starlit sky, and far beyond, among the stars, a faint blue light flickered, like a heartbeat that would never fade.